Okay, hi guys, so today I'm going to be doing a review slash guide of how to clean effectively of the Type 53 Carbine, made in China. I picked it up for 119 bucks from AIM Surplus. That's a pretty good price considering I've seen them for 116 upwards, and I've heard of them as low as 65. I'm not sure how recent that ad is, but I think it's quite recent. But I got this one, and I'm pretty pleased with the stock condition. It's not too beat up. It's pretty bad, but from what this rifle's more than likely seen, I think it's in actually pretty good shape. It has little water damage on the stock, and then just everyday wear and tear, finish missing, stuff like that. And the metal condition's pretty good. The bolt's a little dirty, corroded, and it has little, it's weird, it's not rust, but it turns whitish, as you can see inside the trigger guard in there, maybe up there on the bayonet lug. But it turns whitish. I think it's just some kind of grime, and it's pretty hard. It doesn't want to come off. That mostly popped up when I started cleaning it. But, as I said, this one was made in China. Made in, not sure if you guys can see this too well, 1956. In the 26th Arsenal in some weird Chinese name, Chikong or something like that. Has the Chinese characters right here. I think that stands for 53 year type. And then under that is the date, 1956, and then it has the 26, which on the later ones, they had the Chinese, like this one, the Chinese characters and the 26, but it wasn't as big. But earlier ones. But in the later ones, that 26 would have been much larger and in a triangle. Same with 296, which was another arsenal there. And they dropped these characters. I'm not sure what for. Nobody is that I know of. Kept the date and everything. This was imported by Century Arms International. It was pretty caked in Cosmoline when I got it. When I got it, the stock was too slippery to hold almost. Stuck to everything it touched. Dirt, little hairballs from the dogs, all that stuff. And you couldn't even move the bolt freely inside the receiver. That's how bad it was. I think I need to lube this one up. Started to get pretty bad. And when I took the stock out, it was all the inside of the rifle, all the internals, inside of the stock, everything was completely just drowned in it. I have no clue how they operated this thing without cleaning it. It would have annoyed me beyond belief, but to clean it, what I had my friend help me. We started with the internals in here. What I did is I took some Q-tips and paper towels, combination of those, and you're definitely going to want some latex gloves because that Cosmoline is just, it's miserable to get on your clothes and hands. I have it on my pants here and I smell like Cosmoline all day at school. But those are things that you're definitely going to want to need. And once you get most of the buildup off, the big old thick clumps of it, this stuff helps a lot. Carburetor cleaner. They sell some gun cleaner stuff, but that's a lot more expensive. This works the exact same. Dissolves the tiny, thin layers of it and blasts it out. That's good for inside the chamber and the bore when you do that, but I would suggest running paper towels. Just put them into a little patch kind of thing, stick it in here in the muzzle, take the cleaning rod. No, I didn't use a jag or anything like that or a brush. I just jammed it down there and ran about 20 of them through, 30, until the Cosmoline started getting real thin. And once I did that, I took a 20 gauge shotgun brush, brass brush, and I stuck it down there in the chamber and worked it and spun it and all that for maybe 10 minutes until all the stuff started coming out. And then I took the carburetor cleaner, blasted it out. There's still some stuff up there in the recess for the extractor on the bolt, but I can get that out later. That's not too much of a big deal. And inside the magwell here, it was miserable with it. this was yellow from all the Cosmoline and Magwell. I put rounds in there, tried to cycle them, the rounds were covered in it, then they went into the chamber, which re-dirtied it up again, so I would highly advise against that. That's just not a fun time whatsoever. So, did that. I went through it, took out the trigger group, took out the interrupter and the ejector, wiped out the stock as good as I could. And once I did that, it's been pretty good. I guess it's getting out of the stock and coming onto the rifle again on the edges, and I wipe it around because sometimes I get some Cosmoline that pops up. But it's starting to go away mostly. And I kind of like it in this beat up condition because it gives it character. Instead of just having a brand new rifle, which you know have seen, if anything, nothing, because it was in a box its whole life. This thing was carried around by somebody. Not sure if it was Viet Cong, because China gave these rifles to their North Vietnamese allies, and then the North Vietnamese issued them to the Viet Cong, and I'm sure the South Vietnamese, I'm sure they've captured some of these and used these, or took them off their dead enemies. I know they did that a lot. But these things were also carried by the People's Army in China. It was called the People's Army. I'm not exactly sure what they've done, or what they did, if they're still around. I think they might be. Not exactly sure on all that history stuff. But they're pretty neat rifles. This one doesn't have matching numbers. They force matched it once to another rifle. I think that's the one my father got, because I think his is all matching, and I think his is this number. But the serial number on the floor plate is different, and this is a Russian floor plate, I believe, because it could be Romanian or any of those other countries who have the acrylic letters, because I think Romania made some clones of this. I'm not exactly sure. But this has acrylic letters on it, so I believe this is an M44 floor plate, maybe even a 9130 or M38. It could be any of those, because the parts from here back are completely interchangeable. I only say here back because the rear sight is a tiny bit shorter than the 9130, and I think the M44 has a shorter one, the M38 has a shorter one as well, so you can switch those out with this. And it has a side-folding bayonet like the M44, but the difference between this and the M44 is the M44, the earlier models, I know that, they didn't have this front ear right here. This was missing, so it was just flat right here. But in the later models, I think they started in 1946, they started putting that ear on there. So that is about the only way of telling an M44, well, an early M44, from a Chinese Type 53 without looking at the markers on the barrel shank, markings on the barrel shank, because they're identical. I believe they were made on the same equipment. I think I read somewhere that Russia might have gave the equipment to their communist allies so they could help them out without giving away too many firearms. So it also helped out with China because they were able to sustain themselves and their economy. They kept up their economy because they didn't have to maybe buy guns from Russia. Actually, I think that Russia would have given them to them. But a couple tips to improve these rifles is make sure the inside of your receiver is all clean. I'm sure some of you guys out there that know about mil-cert firearms know this. And it's kind of known to do this. Keep that clean. And right there on the cam point in between where the bolt rubs up against the receiver, sometimes if you polish that, that helps. And then the bolt, if you polish right here, that's where that cam's on the receiver back here. Polish that, that'll help out. Maybe polish this just a tiny bit. I mean, if you do mess with it, I mean tiny bit, because that can mess up your headspace. And you can also, on the spring, you can clip off a couple links. I know you can clip off, I bet you could probably get away with 3 links clipping it off. But I mean links by these coils in the spring. I've clipped off 1, and that definitely is a major improvement to how hard the bolt is to open, trigger pull, and all that stuff, but sometimes it's pretty tough to cut these. I had to put this one in a vise with wire cutters. And it's easiest to just get straight wire cutters, not the pliers with wire cutters in the back. Just pointy-nosed wire cutters. Those are pretty nice for that task. But I'd say only 2 is about the safest spot, because if you go a little any more, I'm sure you can get away with 4, but I would strongly advise against that, because if you do too many, then your firing pin's going to strike that primer too light sometimes, and you might get failure to fires, and that's not good because you're just sitting there wasting ammo. Actually, you could probably reuse that round, but that's a good thing to do on them. That's what I did, and it's actually helped out a lot with not only the trigger pull and all that, but opening the bolt, because sometimes these bolts are real tough to open after you pull the trigger and that spring is set down. These things are pretty tough to open, and that's not always the best thing when you're shooting, because nobody wants a rifle that doesn't act right, because then you have to start buying, or some people think they need to start buying parts and all that other fun stuff. Actually, that's not actually too fun. And I forgot to mention, when you're cleaning, when you're cleaning the Cosmoline, a flat nose scraper is good, like maybe a flathead screwdriver or something, because scrape all that thick gunk off there. It fouls up your paper towels real quick, so it just kind of smears it around. So get some kind of screwdriver, wide bladed screwdriver. I use the firing pin protrusion gauge that came with my 9130. That worked pretty nice. Dummy rounds also are nice. I'd say maybe paint the tip any other color other than what it already is, so you know it's dead, and then drill holes in it. And I put a piece of shoe rubber in there, it's a snap cap kind of. So it's a little homemade snap cap. And if you're somebody who really likes their gun nice and pretty and clean, then I would say get some 600 to 800 grit sandpaper, and you can take it and polish up your bolt. Makes it real shiny. Once you get all that main stuff off, you can take the wire wheel and a Dremel and put it on there. It gives it a mirror finish. That's what I did to my 9130. You refinish the stock. I'd suggest True Oil. I've done that with several gun stocks. Comes out great every single time. Good product. Works good. I think that's going to be conclusion of the rifle. Alright. Thank you. See ya.